Disaster Talk, where disaster is the talk of your town. I'm joined today by Mr. Ernest Lewis with Catholic Charities. I'm going to be your host. I'm Rama Camp, Executive Director from Grace Community Services. Thank you for being here with us today. We appreciate all the work that you do in the community. But if you could just share with us a little bit about Catholic Charities and what exactly is their mission and their goal.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me, Brew. Basically, with Catholic Charities, we've been around for nearly 60 years. And it's Catholic Charities Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston. We have about 14 programs that are actually expanded across the Houston area, Galveston County. We're also expanded in the Western region now in Richmond. Primarily, we do serve basic needs, families in need. We do refugee resettlement. We also deal with legal services. We deal with the senior population as well. So we do a very multifaceted service delivery that really deals with the gaps of services in the community to really make people self-sufficient.
Wow, that's awesome. You know, sometimes if you have worked all your life and when disaster strikes, you don't really know how to access organizations like a Catholic Charities because you never needed that additional assistance. And sometimes people tend to think that, oh, that's for someone else.
Yes.
So I really want you to explain to us, if you could, what exactly did Catholic Charities do for the community after Hurricane Ike?
Okay. Well, after Hurricane Ike hit, Catholic Charities was in a very unique situation. When Hurricane Katrina happened, we stepped up as one of the faith-based organizations where we actually distributed more than $6 million, helped more than 15,000 individuals stabilize themselves and recover. When Hurricane Ike came, we just actually stepped into a familiar role to where we were one of the leading agencies who were helping in the Galveston County area. Immediately when Hurricane Ike hit, we did establish 10 distribution sites where we were giving cleaning supplies, we were giving ice, we were giving food in conjunction with Salvation Army and other key programs in the region. And we did service about 14,000 individuals just for the first couple of months after Ike. After that, we went to another phase, which was casework, case management, where we're getting folk in to the systems, kind of seeing what their immediate or emergent needs were, and then just helping them with financial assistance, if it was a gas card, if it was actually just hotel stays, just those type of things. And then from there, now we're in a long-term phase where we have families who are trying to rebuild, trying to get into their homes, actually trying to get employment because they had a massive layoff due to Hurricane Ike. And we've also have worked as a fund administrator for the county where we were dispersing monies for unmet needs. And unmet needs may be something to where the primary needs weren't met. And to date, we've dispersed maybe close to $3 to $4 million in direct assistance. So it covered rent, utilities, it covered furniture and things like that.
Now, Ernest, tell me, because I heard you say Katrina.
Katrina, yeah.
Now, so are you a native Galvestonian?
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm born and raised from New Orleans, Louisiana. Was affected by Katrina as well. I didn't leave immediately because I did stay in Louisiana and I ran a lot of nonprofits there with disaster recovery. So we were helping folk in the southeast near the Baton Rouge, Hammond area. Then after that, I did move to Houston, and I had previously worked for the Diocese of New Orleans. So then I joined the Catholic Charities team in 2006.
Wow. Well, let me ask you, what is the role that Catholic Charities will play in post-Ike, if you will? What are all of the components and programs that you guys are putting in place after the storm?
Well, one thing that we learned with disaster recovery, we have a lot of lessons learned. Katrina was definitely different from Hurricane Ike. Hurricane Ike would definitely be different from another storm. But what you should have is a toolkit. And basically, what are the lessons learned? What can you do to make sure that you're not stressing your capacity or resources as well, but making sure that you can be a forerunner in the community if they need it. So one thing that we're trying to do is to triage our services as much as possible because we do have basic needs services. And basic needs services work with the working poor or low-income families. And when you're dealing with disasters, a lot of the families lose everything. So they become the working poor very quickly if they're unemployed and things like that. So we're looking at long-term funding to find out how can we transition those disaster families to long-term case management. Because one thing we're realizing now, especially with the RISE project, especially with SSPG, is that we call it long-term, but it's medium short-term funding. So you're not able to make that real impact that you need in 6 to 9 months. Because really when you're dealing with a disaster of this magnitude, it's usually a 3 to 5 year commitment to really start seeing those strong signs of recovery. And right now, we're about, past year 2 now? Which means that we have approximately maybe 2.5 more years to really put a dent in this work.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you say put a dent, a true dent in it, I think that we have, as organizations that are working with the immediate victims, that yes, we have an impact.
Right.
But we have not put a dent. And now that the programs are winding down,
yes,
what is that going to look like from Catholic Charities?
Well, we're very concerned because we're going to leave hundreds of families actually looking for services. One thing that we're trying to do in the program closure is to make sure that we're doing full assessments to find out where those gaps of services, where those unmet needs will be, so that we can make healthy, helpful referrals so that those individuals can get the long-term care that they need. Everyone may not be able to be referred because, once again, agencies have limited capacity at this point. They're still working hard to restructure and reconstruct their operations. So we're going to still have a lot of folk who will be dropped through the cracks, and that's the reality. And that's why we're pushing really hard for these extensions, because we have a lot of work to do, and it's in the numbers, and it's in the needs of our clients.
Absolutely. You know, the purpose of Rue's List is to pool the resources that are still lingering after all of the governmental case management operated organizations have stepped away. Right. And so I am just so grateful that we have beacons of light, that we have organizations and foundations that have been here for 60 years, 70 years,
yes,
that they can continue the work. Now, you mentioned a lot about the phases of disaster.
Yes.
And I believe that sometimes we don't all understand or even know the phases. And we have to, it's so imperative, would you not say, that we have to educate government as well?
Yes.
So that we can have laws and bills pushed through, if you will, on a quicker basis.
Yes.
Now, tell me this. Catholic Charities is all around the country.
Yes.
Do you guys have a specific department of Catholic Charities that focuses on disaster?
Well, our national office, we have a CCUSA, and we have a disaster response team. And basically, we do receive funding from donations, corporations. We actually receive dollars from FEMA, to where if a disaster happens, we have trained individuals who can go to that site. So for instance, when Haiti, we sent a response team. For the tsunami, we sent a response team. And definitely what we're trying to do is to look in our network of Catholic Charities and who are skilled, who can actually serve as case managers and disaster recovery program supervisors, or whatever skill set they can, communication specialists. So one thing we're realizing is that disasters are not going to go away. And it's not just limited to hurricanes, it can be fires, it can be earthquakes. So we really have to make sure that we have a disaster response program and customize it when that disaster happens, because you can't have a one-size-fits-all.
Absolutely. It does not. Disaster is not one-size-fits-all.
Absolutely.
Well, in our wrap-up, Ernest, what services will you continue as of today that the community can either plug into? Is there a phone number, an address, an email address? How can they get to you, and what services will you have?
Well, post-Ike or post-disaster, we definitely have our basic needs programs. We do have a senior program here in Galveston County area. We also will have counseling services as well. Our website is www.catholiccharities.org. We do have sites actually in Texas City and Galveston that will be post-Ike. We do have a site in Bolivar Peninsula, but that will be closing down after the disaster program phase out. So I could give you those tons of numbers, but the best way to do is to go on the website and they'll have that listed for you in detail. Once again, it's www.catholiccharities.org.
Awesome. Would they just find the phone number in the area that is
It probably will, and you just would link on either basic needs or disaster recovery, and they'll have the information for you.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being here. Thank you for all the work that you and your staff have done. Most of all, just thank you so much for continuing to believe that preparation
Yes.
defeats devastation.
Yes.
Well, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for tuning in to Disaster Talk, where we're the talk of your town. I'm Rama King.